within this technology, so it can help you to analyze your business. So once again, welcome to this webinar today, wherever you are watching us. Welcome to the people viewing live on Facebook. For the webinar attendees, if you have questions or comments, can you please type them into chat, and I will comment on them later in this webinar. If you are watching via Facebook, you will have to send me an email with your questions later on, and I will get back to you. So once again, our apologies that Paul Barnaby is not with us as promoted. We did send an email around to the people who had registered at that time earlier today to say that Paul was ill, and he has now been rescheduled for Wednesday, the 20th of May. We are recording this webinar, and ESS Small Business will be supplying a link to the webinar recording to the people who have registered, and we will be sending that round to you in the next couple of days. Let's first of all go to a COVID-19 SME news update, because there's a lot of things happening in this whole process. JobKeeper April wage payments have been extended, so they go through to this Friday, the 8th of May. So that means if you're still paying wages, which would cover the 2 fortnightly periods in April, you'll have until Friday, the 8th of May, to complete those payments, so you can claim them in the processing that's currently been undertaken by the tax office. It was a little bit strange, I thought. The Prime Minister had a well-publicised telephone call to the heads of the major banks, complaining about the time that was being taken to process the coronavirus SME guarantee loan applications with money that's been supplied by the Australian government and the Reserve Bank. And within a day, the banks released hotlines for people who wish to talk to them about a coronavirus SME guarantee loan. So there's some of the phone numbers, and there's more. So hopefully that will help you if you want to talk to the government about those, or to the banks about a particular loan. The government has also announced alternative tests for JobKeeper. And in an abbreviated format, these tests can apply if a business has commenced since 2019, or most definitely after the period of March to June 2019. If there's been a business acquisition that wasn't there in the comparable period in 2019, there's been a business restructure, there's been a substantial increase in turnover, your business was affected by a natural disaster, which could have been floods, bushfires, drought. There's been a irregular turnover that is not cyclical, or you could be a sole trader or a small partnership and there's been sickness or people have been on leave that has affected the comparison figures between 2019 and 2020. Now, the Commissioner has indicated that those 7 tests are the only ones that he's going to allow as alternatives to the basic test that's been put in place. So if you need details, the actual wording of how those tests work, please talk to your accountant, or you can send us an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, All full details are available in the information packs that we have available for subscriptions, and some of the material is for free on www.esssmallbusiness.com.au. Export Finance Australia, which was previously known as Export Finance Insurance Corporation, have ran some full-page advertisements in newspapers around Australia last weekend to indicate that if an exporter has been affected by COVID-19, that they can assist with making finance available. So they're probably worth following up to have a conversation with. The JobKeeper determination of the 30% drop in turnover has been clarified by the Taxation Commissioner. Basically, the comparison is for the months of March, comparing 2019 with 2020 income for GST purposes to go into the business activity statement, or the comparison of the month of April 2019 with the month of April in 2020, or the comparison of your estimates for the 3-month period, April, May, June 2019, with the same 3 months in 2020. They're the basic JobKeeper determination tests. But there are now the alternative calculations that also apply if for some reason you think you don't fit within those classifications. And the other item that has emerged that wasn't quite clear in the first instance is that JobKeeper can also apply to a sole trader, a director of a company, a beneficiary of a trust, an adult beneficiary of a trust, or a partner in a partnership. The rules are that these people are not being paid as employees within those entities, and only one director or beneficiary or partner in an entity is able to apply for the JobKeeper nomination. There might be some tossing of coins going on in some organisations. Now, the person who is nominated cannot be receiving a JobKeeper payment because of another company or trust or partnership that they're involved in. So they can only get access to JobKeeper payments from one entity. The payment that is to be made is $1,500 per fortnight for the 6-month period through to the end of September. And the other big qualification, of course, is that the entity must have qualified for JobKeeper. Therefore, turnover, if it is under $1 billion per annum, must have reduced by 30% when you compare 2019 comparable months with 2020. Research and development has been the other major area that we've been hearing about when it comes to JobKeeper, or COVID-19, I should have said, SME adjustments. The registration for research and development by a company normally has to be finalised with Oz Industry by the 30th of April each year for the year that ended 30th of June, in this case 2019. That's been deferred until the 30th of September 2020. And research and development also has this concept of a advanced finding and an overseas finding. An advanced finding is where you can submit your program for the year, and an overseas finding relates to research and development activities that you would like to receive approval to be conducted overseas. Normally the applications for these items, which can be made at any time during the financial year, have to be lodged for the year ended 30th of June 2020 by the 30th of June 2020. But this year, the final document has to be lodged by the 30th of September 2020. You can still lodge by 30th of June if you wish, but you have to lodge a provisional application by the 30th of June 2020. So that's the update on what's been happening with the government and the tax office. Obviously, that's an abbreviation of what has been said. If you need more information, please contact your accountant or contact us, Peter at essbiztools.com.au. Survival in difficult times is the theme that ESS BizTools and ESS Small Business is calling out products that we've produced specifically to assist small businesses and medium-sized enterprises have a better understanding of what this process is all about. We have a COVID-19 survival plan, which is included within the Survival in Difficult Times product package that you can access information on and subscribe for if you wish at www.esssmallbusiness.com.au. What I want to talk to you now is preparing for the end of the lockdown. The Prime Minister is starting to give hints that he believes the vast majority of businesses should be going back to work. And I heard the Treasurer talking this morning that a week reduced in the period of time that businesses are not fully productive in Australia at present contributes a saving of $4 billion to the Australian economy. That's a lot of money. Andrew Geddes, who's a well-known mentor and business coach to the accounting profession and to a range of other industries, and was also the chair for 9 years of Green Cross Limited, a major veterinary service business that started as a sole practice in Townsville 20 odd years ago and become a top 200 ASX company. Made a presentation last week for accountants as part of our COVID-19 survival panel. And I have taken Andrew's material with his permission and have utilised it to prepare a summary of issues for small, medium enterprises as you prepare for the end of the lockdown. Because the worst situation that could happen now is businesses just concentrate on survival, that's important, I know, and completely forget that businesses are going to be starting up again soon. In fact, in some states, very soon, like the next few days or even the next week or so. And by the time we get to the end of September, hopefully a whole range of businesses will be back in business. Where are you going to figure in that configuration? Is your team going to be ready, raring to go? Have you made some decisions, some strategy decisions? Have you worked out how you're going to implement those strategy decisions? Have you communicated with your team? Have you undertaken some staff training? Have you talked to your customers? So let's just go through some of these items that Andrew Geddes talked about last week. Communications is very important. And that's what I was starting to allude to then, that your team has a clear understanding of where you are wanting to take them and your business in this very important next 6 months, a phase that could determine whether your business is going to survive. Because at the end of the 6 months, the government's hoping that they don't have to offer any more support. There'll be no JobKeeper payments. There'll be no cash flow updates with the money that's basically paying for a lot of businesses, the PAYG tax deducted. And when you look at communications, are you talking to your team? Do they understand where you're going? What about customers? I think it's very important that you are concentrating on your customers at present, communicating with them by email, telephone, inviting them to Zoom sessions so you can talk to them and find out about how they're going. What changes would they like to see? What changes are they proposing within their businesses? And how's that going to affect you? Simplification and training. Is there some aspects of your business that could be simplified during this period? Or is there some special training that your team should be undertaking so that you're ready to jump out of the blocks when you're able to recommence in operations? So that in this less busy time, is there some activities that your team could be undertaking? Have you communicated with your key customers and talked to them about what they are doing and what changes? And is the person who has undertaken those discussions coming back to your leadership team each week and reporting? What did the key customers say? What are they doing? What are their aspirations? What would they like your business to be doing to help them? And could some of these strategies that have been discussed with one key customer be implemented over a number of key customers, or indeed over a range of your other customers? I know they're all important. So could you look at communicating with them and saying, well, we've been looking at such and such a process and we think it can apply to all of our customers? What about government assistance? There's a fair bit of government assistance, and there appears to be still a lot of questions about how it all applies. We have the tax-free booster, which for those of you who were eligible, it should already have occurred based on your business activity statements that were due to be lodged by the 28th of April. So some of the benefits from the government, which will range from $20,000 to $100,000 in this period through to 28th of October, should already be obvious to you. JobKeeper payments apply for businesses that have had a drop of turnover of 30% and who had employees at 1 March 2020 that were either permanent or part-time employees, or you had casual employees at 1 March 2020 who had been working for you on a casual arrangement for at least the previous 12 months. They're the people that you can invite to participate in the JobKeeper payment scheme. The employee has to sign the form and return it to the employer. And then you need to go through the registration process. I talked before that there is an alternative test for JobKeeper, and I did summarize them for you. There's also a subsidy for the employment of apprentices or trainees. If you have less than 20 employees and you are employing an apprentice or a trainee who was with you on the 1st of March 2020, you are able to receive a subsidy towards the employment costs of that apprentice or trainee, calculated at 50% of their wages for 9 months. The 9-month period runs from 1 January to 30th September 2020. The maximum amount to be paid each quarter is $7,000. So the maximum amount that you will receive back is $21,000. But you cannot claim that apprentice in the JobKeeper program as well. So it's one or the other. Cash flow. Cash flow is important at any time, isn't it? And it's going to be very important as we look at the next 6 months. What's going to happen in this post-lockup period? Do you need new inventory in your business? Are you having trouble getting your invoices paid? So are your debtors ledger blowing out? I think it's very important that you implement processes whereby you are monitoring your cash flow position daily and having the leadership team closely examine the position at the end of each week, and then allocate amongst the leadership team people they've got to contact to try to get money in from. Keep a close eye on your inventory buildup. Do you really need all of that stock? Can you implement a just-in-time stock ordering system so that you're delaying the receipt of stock? Could you talk to suppliers about giving you extended terms in these circumstances? If you don't ask, you won't know. Let's look at a financing modeling for your business. If you changed your forecast that you currently have and showed a 10% drop or a 20% drop in turnover or 30% drop in turnover over the next 6 months, what effect is it going to have on your cash flow position? And what could you do about it? If you have not already thought about applying for one of the coronavirus SME guarantee loans, you might want to think seriously about it if you did that type of financial what-if calculation. The coronavirus SME guarantee loans are available from all banks and a large number of other financial organisations. They sourced $105 billion from the Reserve Bank and the Australian government. And the conditions that have been given to the banks are that, first of all, they're only paying 0.25% for the money. They're to lend it at a low interest rate to businesses. The term of the loan is for 3 years maximum. The maximum value of the loan is $250,000. And it's to be lent on an unsecured basis because the Commonwealth of Australia are guaranteeing 50% of the borrowing that a company is making. So these loans are worthwhile looking at. Another area I'd like to talk to you about is generation of income from loan funds like the coronavirus SME guarantees, because those loans are being lent primarily for working capital purposes. So I've got 3 examples that Andrew Geddes talked about in his presentation last week. The first one involves a beef cattle farmer who spoke to his accountant and said, I've now got very lush fields. I was in drought conditions for 4 years, but now I've got fantastic feed available in my fields, but I got no cattle. So I would like to take advantage of the government's offer to borrow $250,000 for 3 years, because I'll go and buy cattle and place them in those paddocks. And in 8 to 10 months, I will have very fat cattle, and I think I'll be able to sell them and make a profit, probably double the value of them. And then I'd like to repeat the exercise another 1 or 2 occasions and then repay the bank the $250,000 at the end of the 3-year period. The accountants sat down and prepared budgets and cash flow forecasts and a dot point business plan. That's a 1 or 2 page business plan document, not a 30-page, more intense document, and submitted that to the bank and assisted their client to raise those funds. A second proposal was that a builder indicated to their accountant that they were worried that they were going to lose some very skilled employees through the problems with COVID-19. And it was decided that the builder would apply for a coronavirus SME guarantee loan, $250,000. And he was going to build a spec home with it so he could keep his team together, the skilled workforce. And their plan is hopefully as soon as they finish the spec home, they'll be able to sell it and immediately repeat the process again and again, if they can, in 3 years, build those homes and sell them. And the third example that Andrew Geddes gave last week was a hotel operator who said to his accountant, I'd like to refurbish my hotel, tidy it up, repaint it, put in some new furniture, generally tidy it up and improve it. Do some repairs and maintenance in effect, so that when the customers are able to return, I'll have a bright new premise for them. And hopefully that's going to improve my bar trade and my food trade. Now, do these types of activities give you any thoughts as to what you might be able to do with a working capital purpose within your business? So perhaps you should talk to your accountants, or again, if you want to talk to us, please send me an email. The next area I want to talk to you about is your senior leadership team, because all businesses need a senior leadership team. A bit hard if you're a one-man operator, I know, but if you're employing some people, it's a good idea to be putting your senior leadership team together. Now, that might not be practical at present with people working at home, but we're looking for when this lockdown ceases. But you can start it now. You can have Zoom meetings so that you can look at ways and means of how your business is going to trade out of this problem. So the senior leadership team could be looking at issues, and you could be allocating them to the various members of the senior leadership team the responsibility of undertaking some research, making some inquiries, and reporting back on what can be done on various issues. Team communication is very important. Some of your people who are working at home start to feel a little bit remote. They start to worry that they're not there at morning tea time or lunchtime, so they can talk about the football matches or babies or what parties they're going to go to, etc. So some businesses have incorporated that people can have a Zoom hookup once a day to have some compensation to keep them all feeling as if they're part of the team. And what some businesses are doing is encouraging the concept that there's a Zoom get-together on a Friday afternoon to have a drink of lemonade or wine or beer or even water, but so that there can be a communication process with the team. For those who are back in the business working though, it's a great idea to have a daily huddle within teams to discuss key issues. Might only take 5 minutes or 10 minutes, so that people get the opportunity to understanding what the aim is today, and they can ask questions. This period of time when you might not be as busy could be a great opportunity to review your markups, review your pricing, to do some studying of what your competitors are doing, look at their websites, and try to reconfigure your pricing. Your accountant can assist you, especially the accountants who are subscribers to our products, because we have a retail pricing calculator that's included within our product package. This is based on your product mixes, what you believe you're going to be purchasing in a year, what the markups might be, because obviously they vary significantly from product to product. And try to set parameters as to the pricing that you can charge to achieve your overall profitability. Working capital, very important, isn't it? And I'm sure that many businesses have discovered that they've been caught short during this period. A lot more businesses would have got into extreme financial difficulty if the government hadn't stepped up with the financing that has been made available of funds to help businesses through this process. Some businesses are setting strategies of having a reserve fund, the equivalent of 3 months' wages, long service leave payments due within a 3-month period, lease payments, and other fixed commitments that the business has to face, and having those funds in another bank account, not to be touched on a day-to-day basis. Because in the unfortunate event that there are more problems from this virus later than the end of September, we've got to ask, do we think the government's going to be able to continue to come to the assistance of small and medium-sized enterprises all around Australia? That might not occur. What would then happen to your business? Another very important matter to remember, and it's not a direct government grant as such, but if you qualify for the JobKeeper status, in other words, your turnover has reduced by the 30%, either on the alternative tests or the original tests, you are then eligible to be able to negotiate with your landlord utilising the Commercial Tenants Code of Conduct. And this basically requires the landlord to agree to rental waivers and rental deferrals, and they are all summarised in the legislation. Now, this was agreed to by the National Cabinet and announced by the Prime Minister, but then it has been up to each Premier or Chief Minister of the states or territories to have that legislation introduced into their own parliaments. And this has been happening over the last couple of weeks. And I think now that each state or territory has done that. So there is real protection there. If your turnover is under $50 million per annum and you have had a turnover drop of 30%, even if you don't wish to utilise the $1,500 per fortnight JobKeeper scheme to pay your team members, qualifying team members, you should still go through the process, because you have to have qualified for JobKeeper to be able to avail yourself of the benefit under the Commercial Tenants Code of Conduct. If you need more details, please contact your accountant or us. The other item that you might look at is the funding planning of your business. Because how is your business going to react at the end of this period? I said before that there, I think, is a very low prospect that the government is going to continue to supply funding assistance. What would you then do within your business? Well, there are some alternatives available that you might like to think about. And I know it does depend on your business. And some people like to think that they own 100% of their businesses. But having some external shareholders can be very beneficial, both for your cash position, but also for the benefit of getting some outside ideas and wisdom, suggestions that can come. So Section 708 of the Corporations Act is the easiest capital raising opportunity for small companies to utilize. You can raise up to $2 million in a 12-month period from a maximum of 20 investors. Crowdsource funding equity raising takes a little bit longer to organize because there is a 90-day capital raising period in that process. And the company can raise up to $5 million in a 12-month period. And it can do that in a couple of tranches if you wished. You might do 2 million and 3 million, but the average raise is under $1 million at present. Or you could be eligible as an early stage innovation company if you are a young company that's developed a new product, process, or service. So each of those items is well worth looking at to be able to raise capital. There are investors who are interested in investing in Australian smaller businesses. Some of them are superannuation fund trustees. Some of them are people who have been where you are today. They've run their own businesses and they're keen to reinvest to help the next generation, but also to make some money. They're putting their money, their superannuation money, to work. Out of all this, one of the most important recommendations that I would be making to you in support of Andrew Geddis's original comments is that a business review meeting should be held preferably every month, whereby your leadership team is present, your accountant is present, and you analyze every aspect of your business. It's not a meeting for your accountant to discuss taxation issues, unless there's a very important taxation matter. It's to concentrate on business of business matters. Where is your business going? What's the situation with your investment in debtors, work in progress, stock? What are you doing with creating new departments or new teams? What's happening within the framework of human resources and training? There's a whole range of other matters that happen in a business besides taxation. So the business review meeting format will allow you to go through that. And out of that should come, that team should be identifying at least 3 projects each quarter or ideas that need to be examined and put through the ringer, if you like, debated, torn apart, with the idea that you're trying to decide if you can identify a project that is realistic for your business to allocate more manpower to see if it can lead to a worthwhile new product or service or expansion of your business. It might be the development of new intellectual property that you can register a patent for and earn money from. It could be anything. It could be a big, audacious idea that you develop. And what this all leads to is, what is your vision for your business? And I think it is time for you to start thinking about those issues. Where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years' time? And that is normally referred to as scaling up. So within a scaling up process, it's important that the business of whatever size, it might only be 1 or 2 people at present, or it could be 2,000 people. You need to look at the leadership team. Who are they? Are they appropriately trained? Are they undertaking courses such as the Institute of Company Directors courses? Or are they reading the material that we develop, which is to help business people run better businesses? And who are the team members and what training's been offered to them? Are they encouraged to improve their skills so that they can be part of the succession plan within your business to save you having to continually go outside and bring a new person in and then spend months training that person, and then they might change their mind and leave. So that whole exercise has cost you a lot of money. For at least 80% of the jobs in your organization, and it could even be 95%, you should be able to develop your own people to take on those jobs. And that might be part of the vision that you have in your business. Developing strategies, the leadership team and your team members should be sitting down and thinking through issues. Some of them will come from the 3 ideas to be identified each quarter. What could be done in your business? And then deciding how you're going to implement those strategies. No, you're sitting down for hours and hours and hours and dreaming up ideas if you do not implement. Failure to implement is one of the biggest problems confronting businesses, not only in Australia, but all around the world. And last but not least, when you look at the challenges of scaling up, is how are you going to finance the business? Because if your business currently has a turnover of $1 million a year and you aspire to have a $5 million turnover in 5 years' time, you will find that you need to have greater amounts of money invested in debtors, stock, work in progress, perhaps in research and development projects, perhaps in registering a patent or patents worldwide. It all costs money. And in many cases, your creditors will not grant you that extra credit. They still expect to get paid, even though your business is expanding, get paid regularly, I meant. And your bank might not be that keen to come to the party. So you might want to look at some of those financing opportunities that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Section 708 of the Corporations Act, crowdsource funding, equity raising, or early stage innovation companies. And that wouldn't have suited the example I gave because they have to be very small new businesses that have developed a particular technology. But that opportunity is there for some. You could also use a needs checklist, and we're going to include that needs checklist on our website, www.esssmallbusiness.com.au, that you could click onto and obtain and complete it. And if you want to, you can send it back to me and I'll give you some comments. So now is the time to prepare for the end of the lockdown. Mr. Morrison's indicating that later this week, on Friday, he's going to be making some important announcements. I think he's trying to encourage the state premiers and chief ministers to try to get the country back to work. We've done phenomenally well out of this, haven't we? Unfortunately, there's nearly 100 people that have died, but when you compare it to the UK, France, Italy, China, USA, and other countries around the world, we've done well. So what are you now going to do at the end of the lockdown period? Next week, we have a further webinar in this series for small businesses and medium-sized enterprises, 13th of May, Wednesday at 12 noon, AEST. The guest presenters are from Sydney, Trent Butler, who will talk to you about services that accountants can provide to you. Trent is a consultant, he's a chartered accountant, but he acts as a consultant to accountancy firms. And he'll be talking to you about what services accountants can provide to assist SMEs, your businesses, to survive in COVID-19. The second speaker is Ashley Evans, the Managing Director at AAA Finance. Ashley's an ex-bank manager, his partner in the business is an ex-bank manager, and most of their staff are ex-bankers. So they're going to talk to you, Ashley's going to talk to you about the financial packages that are available from banks, that you can borrow from banks or other sorts of lenders to help you combat COVID-19 and to be ready to jump out of the starting blocks when you're given the opportunity to be active in your business again. And I'll be the host again, so I'll talk to you then. If you want to register for that webinar, please go to www.esssmallbusiness.com.au/webinars. For more information, I would really like to invite you to visit www.esssmallbusiness.com.au. You can then go into Survival in Difficult Times, learn more, but there's a whole range of other information on that website of products and services that are available for small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, some of those papers and articles there are free and others have a fee attached to them. And I'd like to hear from you with what you think about our website for small businesses. We have another one that's there for accountants, business advisors, and bookkeepers. Or you can send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. Telephone 1-800-232-088. So I hope you stay safe. And thank you for participating in this webinar today. I don't appear to have any questions. If you think of some questions later on that you would like to ask me, please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au. So finally, have a great day. Thank you for joining us in this webinar. My apologies again if you were particularly looking to hear Paul Barnaby, and I was, that he couldn't appear with us today, but Paul will be here to present his case study on the use of predictive software tools developed by Plan Guru for budgets, cash flow forecasts, and a projected balance sheet. He'll be with us on Wednesday, the 20th of May at 12 noon AEST. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for those people who have viewed this webinar on Facebook. And thank you to the people who will view this webinar at a time more convenient for yourselves. In other words, you'll watch the recording at a later date. Have a great day. Goodbye.